in a workplace. So for those of you those of you that are watching us live in EXP Family Tree, remember you can join us on the Zoom if you want, or watch us live is fine as well. We're here every single Monday at the same time, 9:30 Pacific, with Angie, myself, and then typically Nikki. Nikki's daughter, right? I think got married. So she traveled for that and is still on her way back. But we do have an update for Nikki today so that you're not missing the mortgage part of this. For those of you that are new to this call, just a quick reminder. The goal for this is to kind of hear from a national lender what's going on, not always just interest rates, but what's actually happening that we should be considering. What is she seeing? What changes? And it's just for information. For a lot of you, you're not talking to a lender on a regular basis. And if you don't have that capacity or you forget to, this is a place that you can actually just stay really on top of it, only for the purpose of you knowing what's going on. And then you refer to someone that is preferred to you, of course, to do the work. However, if you don't have some education around it, then you're not the expert when people are calling you, when you're meeting people in open houses, when you're talking to your sphere. We want you to be the local expert of choice. And we want you to be the real estate, consultant that they knows what's going on. And there's a tremendous amount of changes happening, both on the lending side of things, with our markets and the shifting of the markets due to interest rates changing, and probably more of that to come. And then also, what's happening, post NAR settlement, and just kind of what the consumer is doing. So that's what Angie and I are here for as coaches and leaders, to just kind of talk you through those things as well. So thanks for joining us. This also goes on Angie's YouTube channel. So just search for AG Coaching, right, Angie? Yep. For Angie Gerber, AG Coaching on YouTube, or you could probably type her name in. I think it still pops up, and you can watch past recordings if it's important for you, if you want to catch up as well. So Angie, tell us what Nikki shared with you. We'll start off with that today.
Perfect. So she texted me and said that the market has responded to the Fed lowering last week, and we saw some additional improvement on interest rates. We are still in the high 5s to low 6s. However, the cost of the buy down for interest rates improved last week. We should see some additional improvement over the next month or so as we head into the election and the next Fed meeting in November. She always does an on the streets portion as well. And what she wanted to say is she had the opportunity again to travel to North Dakota. So she's in Arizona. She went to North Dakota for her daughter's wedding this past weekend. And we had an amazing weekend. Everything was perfect. And of course, conversations tend to lead to what I do for a living. And then the questions about mortgage and real estate followed. So it was interesting for her to hear the viewpoint of the millennial generation, who either had not bought a home yet or was in the process of buying their first home. She said there are still a lot of misconceptions out there about the buying and the process. And this is just to say that we have value as agents in educating young adults who are looking to buy their first home. And this weekend was a great reminder of that. So looking forward to seeing you all next week. As always, she's there and available for any questions. I'll be sure to drop her information in the chat and Carrie, you can on live stream. But I think that's just a really great reminder of the millennials and why they are buying, why they're not buying. If you're in that age group, or I know a lot of agents that I coach are newer and in that age group, like what conversations are you having when your friends or your sphere asks you about real estate? What's your answer? What we want to do, and Carrie, I'd love for you even to touch base a little bit more on this. But what questions are you asking back? I mean, the last thing I think you want to do, at least I used to do this and I stopped doing this, is when someone asked me, how's the market? I was like, and I just throw up all over them. Like, tell them all the things, like I heard in a trade, this or this, that. And really the simple question would be, there's a lot going on. What makes you ask today? Are you thinking about buying? Or, do you know anyone? So really always be asking questions. And until there's a shift in the conversation and you really understand and know the direction it's going, You should be doing about 20 to 30% of the talking. And the person should be doing 70 to 80%. The only way that's going to happen is by asking really good questions and understanding why you're even in this conversation in the first place. And I think, like what Nikki said, there's just still a lot of misconceptions. So what are those? And you're only going to get to those, and you're really only going to understand what's going on by asking really good questions.
Yeah, I think that is a very good, I think that's a very good point, is that we tend to want to like have all of the details and information available the second that someone asks us. And it's much better to respond with a question. The person that talks the most loses in this type of an interaction. And so by asking a lot of questions, you're controlling the conversation, but they are talking more and they feel like the conversation is better. And it will be better for them because it's going to be directed towards what's important to them, not just generally what's going on. I think when people ask that question, they aren't really asking generally what's going on. They're asking it from a lens of what they need to know, but we don't know what they need to know if we don't ask the question. So that would be my suggestion is, do you have a set of 2, 3, 4 questions that you ask people when they ask you, how's the market, what's going on, what's happening since the interest rates, or what does this mean? All of those sorts of things. And you should be having those questions asked to you on a daily basis. If you're not, then you're not talking to enough people. So that should be the first clue that you need to look into in your own business is, do I have people asking me that question? Right now, of all times, there's a lot going on in the real estate market, in our economy, with interest rate changes. So there should be a lot of questions of you if people know that you're a realtor. And if you're not getting those questions, it just means you're not putting yourself out there to be asked. And then once you're asked, what are those questions you ask back? And I like the way Angie phrased it. Oh my gosh, there's a lot going on in the real estate industry and market these days. What makes you ask? That simple question is general enough where they can say, oh, well, we've thought about buying, or we own a home, we're looking at investing, whatever it is. That's a very open-ended question that will give you some direction. And then you should have a few follow-up questions from there. And at the end, you should find some way in which you have a further conversation. Don't just drop it and then leave if you can help it. Because a lot of times we have that conversation and we're like, all right, that person seemed kind of interested. I'll make note of that. But then we're gone. Okay, sounds good. Nice talking to you. And then we leave. So what is the plan to follow up, or what can we say at the end of that conversation that gives some sort of call to action? And so, things like, would it be helpful if I sent you A, B, C, and D as a follow-up to our conversation? It sounds like you might be in the market to buy a home in the next few months. Would you be offended if I followed up with you in 30 days to see where you're at? Hey, would it be helpful if I set you up on a search? Or would it be helpful if you downloaded my app? If you guys all use KV Core, you have a really cool app that you can easily give. And that's just already set up for you in your KV Core. If you don't know how to find that, I can share it with you at the end here. But we've got to find some way to just connect with them further, or bring them some more value, or keep them in front of us, because obviously they asked for a reason. Even if their reason isn't for a year, or 6 months or 2 years down the road, when people say their timing, remember, their timing can change, and it usually does. And it's usually faster than they think it's going to be. So when somebody says, oh, we probably wouldn't do something for 2 years when ABC happens, it might be 2 years, but there's a good probability it would be less than that. And so, so for that reason, I think that we have to just remember how we're engaging these people. I think it's a great conversation today, Angie. How are we taking advantage of all the crazy things going on in our market and our industry, so that because more people have questions, how are we engaging in a lot of those conversations? How are we doing it better than maybe just spewing a bunch of information? And how are we taking it to the next level? Because these conversations have to translate into some follow-up, and then ultimately into some clients as well.
Yeah.
Anybody? Yeah, go ahead, Ange.
I was just going to say, and with that said, and I think that, I know, Carrie, you and I have been through the extensive training, and it's all about also mirroring and matching and knowing your audience and understanding the disc profile. I know I saw in EXP in the workplace that they have the free trains, but it's really how do you ask the question as well? Know who you're talking to, know if they're a high D or a high I, because the conversation and how you ask questions should be drastically different. We are salespeople. And you don't want to say it. Some people don't want to say that or admit that, but really you're selling every day, all day long to everyone in your life, to your spouse, to your kids, to your coworkers, you know, where you want to go to dinner. So just accept it and then put goals around that and having really good conversations. And I love what you said, you know, follow up and give value. So how can you, with like Carrie and I talking, what I'm doing is thinking, I'm reading across her forehead, make me feel important, make me feel seen, make me feel heard. And therefore, what can I give her of value? How can I follow up? And I'm just going to say, I'll leave it here. And then Carrie, I want to go to you. You have to control the conversation in the fact that I don't actually have business cards anymore. I have my app on my phone and I say, what's your number? Let me text you, because therefore now I have a piece of information, a way to contact them. If you're just handing your business card out all over the place and not gathering anybody's contact information back, that's kind of a losing strategy in my mind. So just think about that too. So I just want to put the disc profile out there, thinking about how you're asking questions based upon their profile and giving value and being able to quote unquote control the conversation, or at least contribute and give value back.
Yeah. I love that. Can you repeat the things that you remember? So this is a visualization technique that's really, really great for salespeople, especially real estate salespeople, because we are a relationship business, right?
Yeah.
We're not a transactional business. So Angie just mentioned the things that she visualizes across the forehead of her clients or her prospects or her sphere, whoever's standing in front of her in an open house, etc. What are those things again, Angie? Can you repeat them?
MMFI, make me feel important, or seen or heard, whatever works for you. But yeah, my first coach taught me that MMFI, and you should see it across everyone's forehead. And you're looking at them and you're listening to understand. You're not listening to respond. You're listening to figure out how you can add value, what you can give them, how you can contribute, educate, you know, leave them better off in some way, shape, or form than they were when they first met you, whether it's
Love
a
that.
minute or an hour. That should be your goal. And if you make that your goal and you do that with every single person you haven't come in contact with, I can guarantee you your business will grow.
So that's a big tip, guys. How do you leave every interaction you have feeling that the person was better off because they had that interaction with you? And sometimes that's real estate related, and sometimes it's just human to human. But either way, it's going to help you build your business if that's the mindset that you come from. Sales is nothing more than finding a problem somebody has and providing a solution. That's it. So you can't help somebody if you don't know their problem. But everybody has one, at least when it comes to, you know, if they're asking you questions about real estate, there's something that, and when we say problem, it just means something they need information on, something they need help with or whatever. So that word problem, use it loosely. But we're solving problems for people, meaning they're asking us a question because they're trying to figure something out. They're trying to figure out if they should do something. They're trying to understand something. And so it is our job to figure out what that is. And the only way we figure that out, how that is to take a step back, listen intently, and ask great questions. Then we provide a solution. And we ask those questions. Would it be helpful if? Would you be offended if? And then you follow up and provide something of value, not only in that moment, but when they leave you, because that's how you make the impact on them. And that's how you actually move the needle forward in those relationships and have those call to actions and have more certainty that they're going to reach back out to you too, when in time of need, because of the way you handled that situation when you were in front of them. I think somebody just mentioned something here. Can you talk a little bit more about the disc profile, Angie?
Yes. So I'm a high I. So this is the point where if you ask me how my weekend is, we might be talking for the next 3 to 5 minutes because I'm gonna tell you everything. And you're just like, no, I really just want yes or no. Like that's a high D. So a D, I had a friend that's a high D, and she literally tells me, if you text me more than 2 sentences, I can guarantee you I will not read it. So that's where I say, like, you know what type of a person is by asking a question, how they answer. Like, you'll know I'm a high I because I will answer you and you'll be like, okay, I gotta go. And I'm like, no, let me tell you. Yeah. But high Ds, they're just like, yes, no, get to the point, you know, and then your C's are, let me, DISC. So then you have your numbers people, the analytical ones, the ones that want the numbers. And it's a training that we provide at EXP where you can understand which person you're talking to when you're in the prospect, or they're a client of yours now, or you're wanting to convert them from a customer to a client. It's just a different way to look at a person and how, you know, their psyche is, or how they are, and be able to communicate better. So I use the DISC profile as a communication tool. I imagine if you Google it, there's still maybe some free versions out there. If
I
you,
actually want to show you something
yeah,
really quick, Ange. I found
yeah.
this.
Oh, good.
Watch my screen, you guys, because this is cool. I didn't realize this until this is perfect timing to show you guys. If you go into your myexprealty.com,
Yep.
my.exprealty.com, for those of you that are with EXP, if you're not, just disregard this for a minute. Look at this. Take
Yep.
your DISC assessment now.
Yep.
Right here. So it's free. It's part of being part of EXP. So if you're in my.exprealty.com and you just go to the home, which is where you'll end up at first, you can take your DISC assessment now. And when you take the assessment, it gives you a lot of information, Raul, as well. You know, it'll explain what your actual assessment results are, but in explaining that, it's going to explain to you what other people's are too. Like if you're low on one, it's still going to explain what that means, which means if somebody was high on that, you would know what that means, right? So this will be a great tool for you to start with. And then if you would want to talk to Angie further about it a little bit in terms of sales and stuff, I'm sure she'd be willing to chat with you. Angie does have some free coaching throughout the week that she has open hours and things like that. In fact, Angie, if you wanted to post those in here, and I'll post it in the live stream too, because if you're doing these open hours, you might as well let people know, and the more the merrier. I know you love to give back in these sessions. And so please feel free to do that, Raul. So I wanted to show that to you, which is awesome that we can do that now. We didn't always have that in here.
Yeah, no, and I wanted to circle back to, I'll just put they're my office hours in the Zoom link for this week. But I love what you said too. If you're not out there having these conversations, you're not out there. So remember, conversations equal currency, and it's just starting to have them. This is a relationship business. This is a building trust business, and just getting out there, not being a secret agent. So I work with a lot of agents too on what that looks like for you. I do know one thing for sure, you will not get to your goals if they're big enough from who you are and where you are today. So it's what tools and resources, and where do you have to flex your muscles in order to strengthen them? And also, what do you have to leave behind that's no longer serving you? So just think about that. This business, I've met people that have done amazing with open houses, with social media, with networking, with door knocking. So I work with agents on finding the 2 to 3 pillars that they want to do, how they will show up in the right energy and do this, and dive deep into those. If you're doing stuff you don't want to do because someone's told you to do it, I can tell you you're probably not going to do it. And if you do show up and do it, it's not going to be in the right energy, and you're not going to get much business from it. So if you're not working with someone to really hone in and understand this, come to my open business office hours. They're free, and I'm here and happy to help.
Yeah, for sure. Well, good question. Does anybody want to ask any other questions of Angie and I? We have a couple minutes. We like to keep it to about 20, but we could stand here for another 5. If anybody has anything that we've said today that it's like, okay, that really resonates with me, I have a question or a comment, or does anybody want to articulate some goal or something that we can hold you accountable to today? You guys are quiet today.
We're almost to business planning. Yeah.
Yeah, we're almost to business planning. And so we will be doing, actually, we will be doing a business planning Zoom. So stay tuned on that. Angie and I will share some information with you guys as we get a little bit closer to that. By the way, is anybody on this call going to EXP Con in Miami? Just curious. Okay. If you are, let me know. Should we? I think so. Raul. I can send you the information, or you can just Google it, EXPCon 2024. If you just put that in Google, it'll pop up to its own website. And then you can read all the information about it. It is in Miami this year. It is our national convention. It's the end of October. And I have found every time I go, I get value. You have to be purposeful about your time, intentional with your time. Go to the breakouts that are important to you. I believe John Dietz will be there, as well as myself, Raul. And so a lot of people in our group, but just really gives you a lot of exposure in person to people that I think if you have really good conversations and you're intentional with your time, you will walk away with some great value for your business. And then if you're a driven person and you execute on the things you learn, you will get a return on your investment. Obviously, it's a write-off because it's a business event as well. Some people bring their spouses and kind of make it a combination, fun vacation for them and their significant other. But yes, I know, Raul, you're cross country. So me too. It's not ideal. I'm coming from Coeur d'Alene, so it's going to be a long flight for me. I agree with you. Yeah, next year, because you're pretty new here still, next year would be something to plan for sure. You'll also have, by the way, everybody, just so you might not know this, in the spring, there are always regional rallies that are somewhere in usually the vicinity of a drive or a very short flight from you. And sometimes it could be in your city, who knows? And there usually are multiple regional rallies around you. So in other words, you could pick from 2-3 different ones, depending on what direction you might want to go. And really, really good for networking with agents in different markets that are somewhat close to you regionally for referral sources. You meet oftentimes your local broker teams, all of that good stuff. And so we'll start putting those out there after EXPCon because they come in the spring. And so for those of you that can't go to the national event, I would definitely encourage you to be watching out for that and go to the regional one because there's also a tremendous amount of value in those. All right. Well, we've been on now for 24 minutes, which is a little bit longer than we like to. I think it was good information today. Angie, thanks for that. Yeah. Next Monday, we'll be back here again with Nikki, Angie, myself. Bring questions, bring things for accountability. Don't forget, Angie has office Zoom hours. We have our Wednesday call where we bring in top producers talking about what they're doing in the business. We have coaches sharing. That's led by Rich Tomasini. That's every Wednesday. If you don't have that information, please let me know. Just work chat me. Thursdays, I also have an open hour for kind of just coaching and whatever else you need. And so we're here for you. Make sure you plug into things, be accountable. This is the time of year where we need to get momentum going. And I believe with everything going on with interest rates, we're going to get busy. So we need to be putting ourselves out there to be busy. And yeah, so thanks you guys for being here. Thanks, Angie, as always. If you want to go back and watch this recording, you can do it in EXP Family Tree. It's live streamed and we'll stay there, or you can head to Angie's YouTube channel.
Lovely. Thanks, Carrie. Thanks everyone. See you next week.
Bye.